Episode 12 with Rommel Ng of Buffalo's Wings and Things.
You're listening to Kendrick Loves to Brand, the branding podcast featuring stories and lessons from entrepreneurs and brand builders so you can get inspiration, insights, strategies, and tactics as you create your own game-changing brand. Welcome to the show, Rommel. Thank you for agreeing to guest on the show.
No, thanks for having me. I'm excited. I'm a podcast fan, so I'm excited to be here.
Nice, thank you. So let's start. Before anything else, who is Rommel Ng? What do you do?
Well, I'm Rommel Ng. I'm Rommel Ng. I'm one of the co-founders of Buffalo's Wings and Things. I'm also the founder and chairman of the Resto Coach. It's a movement and advocacy trying to help people give free information about how they can succeed in the restaurant business.
This is free, no? You mentioned free. So this is more like an advocacy on your...
Yeah, an advocacy on our part. The goal is, a lot of people call me coach, which is okay, but I emphasize always that the Resto Coach is actually a movement. It's a movement to parang stimulate more collaboration within the industry so that we help others, especially those who are just starting up or who are aspiring to have their own restaurants, para mas maging so that the restaurant industry could reach its full potential and be more successful for everyone.
When did you start itong Resto Coach?
We started the Resto Coach just last year. It was actually, the idea was just a book. I just wanted it came out of my desire to give back to the industry, which has been very good to my family, to myself. I grew up in the industry. I was a former working student, a part-timer Jollibee way back in 1992. So, it was that the career that I have had in the restaurant industry is very blessed. So I just thought of sharing. So it was just a book at first. And when I got to talk to people and, collaborating with others, I realized that there could be more potential, especially now with the advent of podcasts and other social media platforms. So I thought it could be bigger so that we can reach a bigger audience.
Okay, so before we get deep into the Resto Coach, you mentioned you got started in the industry in 1992. So what type of what companies did you work for before starting your own restaurant?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, I did Jollibee. Jollibee Grand Central, to be specific, in Monumento. At that time, it was the number one Jollibee branch in the Philippines. No, that was the early years of Jollibee, relatively rapidly growing sila at that time, and I was blessed to be part of that journey, and that's where I learned. I got sort of rekindled because our family also used to own a pansiteria, a noodle house, and my lolo was actually a first-generation migrant from China, and he put up a noodle house, a simple noodle house, a hole in the wall, which grew into a big restaurant in Valenzuela. So siguro when I worked in Jollibee, it got rekindled. I was actually taking up a different course. I was taking up journalism in the University of the Philippines, but that stint, I was already in third year college, and I realized that I'm really passionate about service, food service in particular, and restaurants.
I was about to ask, what made you go into the food industry? So you talk about the history with your grandfather, no? Were you involved, or how exposed were you at a young age to the business?
I was not involved, but I was very exposed because we actually lived on top of the restaurant. So when I stay with my parents, but most of the time, since my mom was the cashier at the restaurant, I stayed most of the time on top of the restaurant, which is actually a combination of function area and residential rooms for my father's siblings. So we're very exposed. It was a 24-hour restaurant. So, when you go down, you see customers. So we're pretty exposed. And it was a successful business, so I think that was also one of the reasons why I felt compelled to follow the footsteps of my granddad, no, my lolo, because I saw the power of the restaurant business. A simple restaurant business which started as a noodle house, fed not only a family but provided for 2 generations worth of savings and investments from a very simple man who migrated from China. So I think that was the fire that was rekindled in my spirit. Siguro na I really wanted to be empowered also to provide for my family and to also to share the blessings to others.
So from starting in Jollibee, how long before you decided to strike out on your own?
Tagal pa because it took a while because from Jollibee I also worked at Outback Steakhouse. So that was a major transition in my career, I would say, and I was like a good blessing because it happened accidentally. I saw a photo on a desktop computer of a familiar face, and I asked the owner of the computer, which was my colleague, and said, that's your husband, where is he? He's in the States training for Outback Steakhouse, and I got interested. So I applied, and that's where I met my co-founder in Buffalo's Wings and Things, Ed De Los Reyes, who became my boss in Outback Steakhouse. So that's how we met. So the transition from fast food, Jollibee, because from Jollibee Service Crew, I graduated to become a manager, and then I also became business development and Jollibee International candidate ako doon, but I just backed out because my daughter was born at that time. But I transitioned from fast food to casual dining, which is very transformational for me. My training was done in the States, which I'm thankful for Mr. Bill Stelton, the original owner of Bistro Holdings. Yeah. He was the one who sent us to train in the States for Outback Steakhouse. So when I came back, I was totally equipped and empowered to do a lot more things than I learned, aside from those that I learned in Jollibee, which was a very solid foundation. The reinforcement and the additional knowledge in a different segment, which was casual dining, was given to me through Outback.
Okay. So from Outback?
From Outback naman, I started to venture into business. I did catering. I was catering to PBA teams. I was providing meals, but that was a short-lived business because I realized I'm not ready to it's not also enough to feed my family just from that business. And the catering business was very different from the restaurant experience that I had. So I went back to mainstream, and I was blessed to be recruited for Shakeys. So that's when the time naman I joined Shakeys. I think that was already early 2000s, 2003, 2004. Sobrang blessing, it's big blessing because that was the time naman that Shakeys was doing their turnaround. So I witnessed all of those experiences that the Shakeys company was turning its brand around and going back to its original legacy branding, which was the 1954, all the colors, the fonts, operational standards, etc., the original thin crust pizza. I was there. So I learned, again, another significant transformation for me, learning other facets of the business, such as, local store marketing, business development, and such.
So, and then from Shakeys, what else did you do after Shakeys before Buffalo?
So this is where it gets interesting, So after Shakeys, business development, I also got my first break as a multi-unit leader in Shakeys. Also crucial kasi my personal goal was to, at a certain age, to become multi-unit manager already. Siyempre nakapagod din. It gets tiring to be on shift every day, closing shift, etc. So my simple goal then was, at the age of 35, I should be a multi-unit manager. So blessing naman, I accomplished the goal earlier with Shakeys. I became multi-unit. Then I became, sabi ko nga kanina, aside from operations, I also became business development. And that got promoted as the first franchise operations manager of Shakeys back then. But the opportunity to return to Outback was there, So I jumped from Shakeys and went back to Outback. And then after that, bumalik uli ako, went back to Shakeys again. So it's Jollibee, Outback, Shakeys, Outback, Shakeys. Yeah. And then after a short stint, another stint, fruitful stint with Shakeys, I suddenly, parang ano lang, I had the itch to try another industry, which was the mall industry. I worked briefly for SM as the Vice President for Mall Operations of the Central District and Central Region. And doon naman natutunan ako, I learned about the other side of the fence, from being a tenant to being the lessor. So although it's just 5 months, it's just so significant of a learning for me to undergo, and that was crucial also. And then if you notice, may mga timelines that are overlapping, because when we founded Buffalo Wings and Things, I was just an inactive partner. The first store was actually not really meant to be a big chain of restaurants. No, it was just something to do after work, and I'll get together, work there at that wing joint in Ortigas Home Depot, and get together with Ed, with Chef Sunny, and myself. No, tatlo kami. And I was just doing what I love to do, which is front of the house, servers. Ed was our manager, and then Chef Sunny was our back of the house guy. So, yun lang, it started there. But when it became serious na that it was expanding, I said I cannot, I went back, nagtatrabaho pa ako, so I was still working. So I said I will just become an investor for now, and was inactive in the business until I left SM in 2016. So that's when I went back to Buffalo Wings and Things to become an active and participating leader of the company.
What year did Buffalo start?
2009.
2009.
In Ortigas Home Depot. That was, hindi namin dinedeclare. We're not declaring the official opening date because it's April Fool's Day.
Oh, when you
So April 1, 2009. But we always say it's March 29, 27, no? 27, 29, which were actually our dry run dates. So we started with a very humble beginning for the brand. It was a no frills, elbows on the table, wing joint. Was supposed to just be a fun venture.
Yeah, I remember this brand kasi my very first office was in one corporate center in Ortigas, sa corner lang ng Julio Vargas and Meralco. So it's actually very near our office. So, like from starting that company, like why chicken wings? Like, was it something you had like when you were during your experience in Shakeys or Outback? Was it already something that was parang percolating in you and your partners' minds na eventually let's start something?
Well, actually, the story was, the real story was, si Ed had another business at that time, restaurant then. But, he kept me in mind from the years that we were working together. And he was conceptualizing the concept, and he invited us. And when he said it was going to be a wings concept, I think that's one of the things that convinced me. Because in my trips to the US, and also during our working days in Outback, and Ed during his working days in Fridays and Outback, the number one appetizer is actually chicken wings. So, but everyone offered it in a different format. No, it's supposed to be an appetizer, supposed to be with blue cheese and celery sticks. But we came up with the idea of, why don't we just serve it as chicken wings? And then if people wanted to add, blue cheese, if they wanted to add something else, that would be, an additional order. Parang we wanted, the motivation was to address that opportunity to serve quality, authentic American chicken wings to the masses. Because at that point in time, if you wanted to enjoy American buffalo wings, you had to pay a price for it, a high price for it. So we wanted, ordinary people like us to have the opportunity to enjoy authentic American chicken wings.
So it became accessible.
Yes. And the story was, first month, I think, and month and a half was really hard. We were texting people, inviting them over. Facebook was just beginning to get popular then. And, I remember Chef Sunny and our additional assignment from Ed was to just buy prepaid cards before we go to the restaurant and just text our friends. And it went on for about a month or so. And then one Friday, we saw there were a lot of people. We thought it was the neighboring restaurant. It turns out it was Buffalo Wings and Things. And, ever since, from that Friday onwards, the blessing is already pouring na daming tao, a lot of people eating. And word of mouth spread.
So from that one branch, it's been over 10 years now. How many branches do you have right now?
Right now we have 50. We just opened our 53rd branch yesterday, no, in SM City, Calamba. But just to give people the ano siguro the proper perspective, it was not really a smooth ride because our second and third stores actually closed.
Oh.
Because at that time, we, inspired by what happened in Ortigas Home Depot, we thought it was beers and wings. So, we looked for places like drinking places. Like in Green Hills, we were positioned in places like, the space beside Chivs was Buffalo's before. Akala namin, it was inuman. So we were looking for spaces where it was going to be beers and the same thing in Aguirre. We looked for a space near a drinking area. And the learning was, people wanted to eat our chicken wings with rice. So yun pala yung definition ng market sa amin. And good thing that we were paying attention. So we didn't hesitate to close the second and third branch and then went into Megamall and North EDSA. And we're thankful also to SM for being the first one to trust us and inviting us over to the malls.
Okay. Yeah. How tough was that? You mentioned it wasn't that hard to close. Pero like I can imagine, having also dealt with closing a branch or two, diba? Like at that time when you had to close your second and third, was there ever like internally, at least with the partners, na parang tama ba to? Baka this is not gonna work na pala, or was it more like, okay, we realize what mistakes we made, now we can move on?
Well, I think it's more of a tip or an insight that I really am excited to share with everyone. If there's one thing to learn from our history is that you always have to observe, go to the stores, visit, observe how the customers are consuming your product. And that's, I think, why there was no struggle anymore. The sales were not really that bad, but, the realization is that people are not responding because it's a different way that we wanted. You cannot educate the market so to speak. No? You do not aim to educate the market. You look at their behaviors and how they're consuming your product, and that's what you give to them. So when we saw that it was more of the wings and rice, and that was actually a bigger opportunity because people drink once a week, twice a week, but people eat rice and chicken every day. Yeah. So that's who we are right now. No? Even in our page, that's the definition of Buffalo's Wings and Things. Is to provide our consistently provide our customers an opportunity to have the best tasting, most enjoyable flavor experience every day of the week. So it's whether it's Pecha de Peligro, no payday yet. You can go to our store and have that craving satisfied. Yun yung realization. So to your question, no struggle actually. And when you realize that your decisions are not aligned with the strategy and the purpose and the vision for the brand, as the customers, manifest or tell you what your brand is, then you adjust. I think that's the important thing. You don't fight it. No, you go with it.
So from that point when you opened in Megamall, and was it like all the way now until what you have now, continuous expansion?
No, not really, because again, another learning naman was the way we were expanding. So at first we were not open to franchising. The funny thing is that we only franchised way back then because of the persistence of the first franchisee, who is the franchisee for Alabang and Santa Rosa. If not for that, we wouldn't have franchise. We were doing joint ventures and company-owned store openings. And then, we also had a learning curve in terms of expansion, in terms of the locations that we were choosing. So, ako personally, I take accountability for not really paying too close of attention because I was still working. I had my commitments, and I believe that was my ethical commitment to the companies I work for, that I don't actively work in Buffalo's while I'm working. But, the important lesson is that, when you do a business, you have to give it your focus, your attention. Well, but I'm not complaining. Right now, we're nakapag-expand pa rin naman kami. The rapid expansion came 2017, 2018. When we decided to really put our efforts together, and, personally, I came back and gave my commitment to Ed to really focus on the business, and we came up with a sound strategy that I think is now working for us.
So how many stores did you open over the past 2 years?
The past 2 years, we opened the second half of 2017, we opened 8 from June to December. And then we opened 23
23
in
last
2018.
year. Wow.
And now we're closing the year with 15 openings for this year.
Wow.
So I think that's the pace that's going to be regular na, 12 to 15 stores a year.
What do you think has been the secret to the success of the brand?
Well, like any other restaurant, it all starts with a signature dish. If you don't have a signature dish, then mahirap. You cannot be, number one, no, it can be copied kung wala ka signature dish, so the recipes and everything. Then you get known for a product. In our case, it's authentic American buffalo wings. Now we have our signature flavors, which made us famous also since 2009, garlic parmesan. No, and ngayon, ang dami na, no?
Yeah.
Parmesan garlic, they just rename it. Because technically, you cannot patent those two words because those are common words, garlic and parmesan. So, but we have New York's finest, and you have the honey barbecue and all the famous flavors. And recently, creamy salted egg. Way back, we were the pioneers in the salted egg sa chicken wings. And then we just relaunched it recently. But it's about taste, it's about flavor that makes it signature. Secondly, you have to have a signature experience. Meaning, in our case, it's fun casual. It's not really casual dining that's too polished or formal. It's just a fun restaurant, but you don't have to line up.
Yeah.
So it's casual dining. You go in, you get served, no? And I think that's very important. To the third point naman, it's the business model. More on the business side of it, you have to come up with the right size of the store, the right P&L, which is going to be your food costs, at what daily average sales are you supposed to break even, make money, make ROI at 3 years, etc., etc. So I think those three things are very important: the signature dish, and then the signature experience, and then the business model.
What do you think? I mean, as an entrepreneur, what do you think is your parang biggest strength, or what's your main strength as an operator, as an entrepreneur?
Siguro the experience, sigurado it's the experience that we have, and I think the putting together of the team, and you have to give credit to Ed for that. He put together a team that is not redundant, meaning each one of us brings unique value to the table aside from money. So Ed is passionate about logistics and supply chain and and to some degree R&D, but chef obviously is is culinary and the creativity that goes with it, the back of the house operations, and I was like front of the house, training, coaching, leadership coaching to people. So when you put those things together, hindi kami redundant eh. And then, the money becomes secondary eh. Kasi totoo lang, when we started, it was all of our life savings. Now, napakaliit lang nun. And we always joke around na what we invested is already 100 times nag-grow na siya. But, looking back, at that time, we were hesitant because that was all of our money that we saved, which is actually a realization also for us. I think the genesis was of the entrepreneurial side is that we realized there's no retirement pay or retirement package for restaurant workers. So the ending should be you own your own restaurant. Otherwise, you grow up retiring stressed and walang money. So, yun yung istorya.
Since you mentioned earlier, like the process of learning from the second and third branch closing wasn't that hard or difficult in terms of yung process, no? Is there another situation that you can look back and say, oh, that was one of the toughest adversities you've had to deal with in running the business?
Yeah, I think the most recent is, until now, it's ongoing naman, is the hyper competition in the industry.
Yeah.
In our case, especially, you think of our product, when we started, chicken wings was very abundant because nobody was selling it.
Yeah.
So we started, I think at that time, ang nauna lang sa amin was, or contemporary namin was Flaming Wings. And us, and no one else, was getting wings. So the price of chicken wings as a commodity was very low. And then baliktad na, it's premium cut, It's even more expensive than the other cuts of unbelievable. No, it's even more expensive than thigh and leg.
Oh, really?
No, so it's 190, 185 to 190 now if you buy it from the supermarket. So I think that's one. That's an ongoing challenge for us, is the supply chain, meaning starting from procurement to availability of supply. Chicken wings as our core product. No, hyper competition in the industry. It resulted to a lot of challenges, not only for Buffalo's Wings and Things, but also for the rest of the restaurant industry. Labor drain.
Yeah.
People who, a lot of us competing for the same pool of talent,
Yeah.
which is actually dwindling.
Yeah, correct.
Because a lot of them want to work in other industries, or, even better for them, they're starting their businesses. It's easier to start a business now. Online business is a business. So nobody really wants to work in the restaurant industry anymore. Have you come to think of it? Less and less people. No, so you have to recruit, you have to really source out. You cannot just wait for walk-ins. Dati, when you apply way back in the 90s and even the early 2000s, if you want to apply for a restaurant job, there's a line of people. And now it's the other way around. You have to find people who are willing to work in the restaurant industry. So commodities, labor, and then the changing lifestyles of people. Inward migration to Metro Manila again, traffic, all of these dynamics give you that extra, requires that extra diligence to really evaluate where you want to expand your brand. You have to really study it well.
So in times like that, how do you, what is your approach, at least in terms of your mindset when it comes to these challenges?
Well, the template that I can share with everyone is that you have to have a combination of information plus experience. And if you don't have the actual experience, you can always reach out to others who came before you. Our relationship, the two of us, is very young, but it's already, I would say it's very good because we share common challenges, we want to address common objectives, etc. And that's, I think, the way to go for young restaurateurs and resto negociantes, is to reach out to somebody who has experienced it before. Because if you only decide based on information, it doesn't paint the whole picture. The same way, if you only decide based on experience without data, you will come up with the wrong decisions as well. Yeah. So it's information plus experience, you come up with insights that you can now evaluate to come up with the right decision. Decision making, the right decisions, is very, very important in business, especially in a very hyper-competitive industry such as the restaurant.
That's actually something, since you mentioned it, it's something I really appreciate, how open and how generous you are with your time and your experience. This is actually only the second time we're talking. No?
Yeah.
Even the first time when we talk, I think I was able to pick up a lot of things from you. And I think the main difference would be, when we were starting out, like you said you can get information, and then yung experience, we try to talk to as many restaurant owners that we know of. I think the main difference is hearing from you. It's not so much na mahirap, hindi kaya, wag mong pasukin. Kasi when we tell people before na, we're gonna start a restaurant, the instant reaction was, are you crazy? Parang, why would you do that? Parang hindi mo lang pinapasok mo, parang don't even do it na. And this is advice coming from restaurant owners themselves before. And they would tell us all the horror stories, na, dealing with pilferage, dealing with all these headaches. So it's actually very refreshing to hear from somebody like you na you've dealt with all these things, I'm sure, diba? All the downsides and all the stress of running a restaurant. But your approach to it and the way you talk to it, from for somebody like me na we're still looking to learn, we're still looking to grow. It's very positive. It's it's about, I think it's a growth mindset din, di ba? Na
yes.
It can be dealt with. There's a solution to it. So that's one of the things that really resonated with me when we first met. Yung ganun. Kasi yun yung mahirap na part when we were starting out, na majority was discouraging us from doing it because of all the horror stories and challenges daw, parang ganun.
Well, number one, I'd like to qualify that all of these things, it's my personal belief, which I share with the other founders. No? Everything that's given to you by God is a blessing that it's meant to be shared. It's not meant to be, kept to yourself or for your self-enrichment. And that's my personal belief. And, fortunately, I have partners who share the same belief. Number two, we're just paying it forward. we are just paying it forward. You don't have to thank me. Because before me were people like Mr. Stelton, I can name Mr. Ato Tan Manchong, Tony Tan Kakchong. These people are selfish selfless, hindi sila selfish, that they shared their actual money and invested on us. Imagine, the training I had for Outback Steakhouse was actually 5 months in Virginia Beach, USA. Imagine the expense that they had to shell out. With the simple trust lang that this guy will do. And, I just came from Jollibee. I was a young person. And what made them, commit that amount of money and trust? And I'm just paying it forward. I'm not being parang trying to be humble, but it's the reality. People trusted me before, so I'm now passing the baton, paying it forward, or however figure of speech that you want to call it. No, it's the same thing. You just have to pay it forward for the industry to continue on in a sustainable manner. Number 3, I think the perspective of somebody who, like us, Ed, myself, and Sunny, na we did start as restaurant owners. We came from the ranks. So we have both the perspective of being an employee and an employer. And I think that's very valuable and that's very insightful. Because when you say everything is difficult, that's coming from a point of view na, and on this side are the restaurant owners, on this side is the restaurant employees. No, it's actually not that. We're on the same side. Yeah. On the other side is the customers that we are trying to serve. So if like for example, the last GRLC we attended, Global Restaurant Leadership Conference in Singapore, is a validation of the other year and the other previous year. The Philippines is only second to China in terms of restaurant growth in the whole world. So why would I discourage people from entering the restaurant industry? I will encourage people to enter the restaurant industry. But I'm also here to help them do it in a more systematic, mas madaling way instead of, pagdaanan mo rin yung challenges. Sige, bagito ko. No. Do not learn from your own mistakes anymore. We will share with you all the experiences we have so that you take it dun tamang direction from the get-go.
So they can avoid the mistakes, common mistakes.
Yes, and then what happens then? What happens is that with better owners, you have better situations for employees, you have better situation for customers.
Correct.
Then the industry becomes more sustainable. The worst thing that could happen to the industry now is for it to implode. Like what happened to the food parks.
Yeah.
Diba? Like what happened to the mercatos. Although some are still thriving, but we don't want people to lose money because this is hard-earned money. Imagine a lot of people entering the restaurant industries are OFWs. Who sacrifice a lot to put together money to invest in restaurant, in franchises a lot of the times. No? So it's our responsibility to make sure that people who enter the restaurant industry get encouraged, empowered, equipped, and they succeed. Otherwise, the industry will implode.
That's actually one of the things, like when we first met, and you were giving me a lot of advice. This is one of the things I took from it, your passion for helping the industry. I actually talked to my partners about it, and I was telling them, how refreshing it is to hear somebody, like you said, you've gone through all these experiences. The typical, or parang, kumbaga, it's sort of understandable if you would want to keep these secrets to yourself, but you're sharing it. So I'm just wondering, when you were starting out, you mentioned a few names earlier, but when you were starting out, was there somebody that you looked up to in the field? Siguro, maybe not even way back, but siguro when you guys started Buffalo Wings and Things, was there a particular company or brand that you were looking up to and saying, we hope we can turn Buffalo into that kind of brand?
Well, for us, it was Bistro because we all worked in that organization, and Mr. Stelton was somebody who changed the restaurant landscape in the Philippines. He put in skin in the game. Hindi yung lip service. It was really actually his hard-earned money from selling restaurant equipments that he put into this Bistro Holdings. And you look up to people like that. At that time, of course, my experience also with Jollibee. The humility, the resolve, the determination of the Tan brothers, particularly, Sir Tony, Sir Ato, and you have at the background, nobody really knows him a lot, but Sir William, their other brother, all of these siblings working together to put up a giant company now. As I look back then, parang, wow, di ba, ang galing, no? And of course, yung mga personal mentors, like I mentioned earlier, si Ed is my big brother in the industry. I have a lot of friends from the Outback culture, the Outback days who I still contact today. A lot of things, and of course my lolo. As I mentioned earlier, my lolo was like, he had to travel from China to the Philippines, bro. And I just have to pay attention and just focus my energy. But all people, all of these people, and we hope we inspire all of these kind of things now, with the younger generation of restaurant owners and resto negociantes, is that, it's, as I mentioned, we should put together our efforts and make the industry better, so that we can gain the leverage that we deserve in terms of the recognition for the industry and how it has helped people like myself. Without the restaurant industry, we come from very humble beginnings, While I mentioned a noodle house, a pansiteria, you have to remember my dad was a policeman, and my mom was just a plain housewife. Because when you talk about the restaurant, there are 9 siblings working in that restaurant, too, getting money from that restaurant. So it's not really ours. So my dad was a policeman, and I'm proud to say that. And I had to work my way up, scholarships, etc. And won't you want to share that same blessing to others and make an easier path for everyone? Kesa naman the industry suffers, and customer experience suffers, employee experience suffers. So that's the whole motivation.
So with this, you're doing it through the Resto Coach. Can you tell us more about that? Like, what's the process? If somebody wants to learn, what do they do? Where do they go?
Well, right now it's just it's just a YouTube channel and also a Facebook page. But we're coming up with something bigger. I recently collaborated with Chef Laudico, Chef Lau, and he also believes in the advocacy. So we put together a Resto Coach parang project that will help restaurants and then show it to people in social media, like a restaurant case study, which and I'm very pretty excited about that.
When is this coming out?
We're actually now doing the rounds, looking for sponsors, basically suppliers and people who are stakeholders in the industry as well. And so far, alam mo, the response to the pitch is very, very overwhelming and nakakatuwa, because they're all excited about the tone of the video, kasi hindi siya hard sell. It's not promoting products or what. It's a movement. So everyone likes that so far, sa pinuntahan namin. So I'll keep you posted, and maybe we can guest again, and this time with Chef Lau, so we can talk to you about that project that we're excited about.
Of course. And shout out to my sister-in-law, Ate Ella, who's helping with the show.
Yeah, si Cap Media, si Ella, si Leo, si Direct Tony Pet. Shout out sa inyo lahat. Thank you very much for believing the advocacy. Kasi I was hesitating at first na, will people understand, especially people outside of the industry? And it turns out, everyone's now excited about it.
So in this show, will you be like Gordon Ramsay shouting at people, or more like...
Actually, that would be, a lot of people who know me personally won't believe that, because I'm a very positive person, optimistic, positive, hopeful, and I believe that's the way to go about it. Because if you do that, a la Gordon Ramsay, not a lot of restaurants will approach you for help. Because kawawa naman sila, their brand will suffer,
And even personally, parang they look...
that's not our intent. Our intent is, that's why the show always leads with the saying that the Resto Coach is not me, it is not Chef Lau or whoever's on the show, but it's everyone who's pitching in to share experiences to others. Diba? It's parang the whole premise is, do not learn anymore from your own mistakes. Learn from our mistakes, and it will be easier for you.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that, definitely. So given that you have that show that you're working on, you have 53 branches and growing. What is your typical day like? How do you structure your day?
Ang ko kasi, I'm an early riser, because siguro the habits of I believe in two things that are very important in life aside from of course the more important ones like God, family, and two things, time and options. Actually, when you work every day, you do business, you're building options. Diba? But time is something that's very valuable. That's why I try to optimize it. So yung habits ko from before when I was still working, I carried it through now. Even I'm president of the company or the Resto Coach chairman, I still start work at 6:30 a.m. No, at home, I do my personal internalization and reading of whatever books I need to read so that when I arrive at work at 7 a.m. every day, I am the one who opens the office, and then I do all my admin stuff first hour just to make sure that when people arrive, I'm not on my phone, I'm not on my laptop, so that I can be face-to-face interacting with them. And then I have a weekly flight plan which details the things that I need to do on a regular basis. Every Monday is this, every Tuesday is this. I have time for one-on-ones with people. It's the only way to achieve work-life harmony is to empower people.
Can you give us more of an idea? I'm always interested in how people like more successful people work, so I can find patterns also that I can apply. So when you say a weekly flight plan, so like, is it like having a theme per day?
Yes.
So for say Monday, like what's a typical
Monday would be for me. Monday would be FinCom, so that you're in touch about the money matters and the things that before signing checks you have to understand bank balances, etc. And then of course the afternoon of Monday starts na yung one-on-ones with my Mancom members. Operations and business development comes first, and then marketing and then supply chain. I talk to the department heads on a one-on-one
the whole
basis.
day,
Monday until Tuesday, Tuesday morning. So ang goal ko by Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday, I'll be in the stores already, because that's where the action is and that's where we should be.
So how often do you visit? Like, I mean, you have 53 stores. I can only imagine like how do you spend time? Do you actually visit each store, even the franchisees, or?
Yeah, we do. We try to visit. Ako, like personally, as a president, I try to visit at least 2 to 3 stores. 2 stores a week. Para lang in touch ako sa nangyayari. And then you also commend the people, recognize them, give them feedback. That's very important. And you validate the work of your area leaders, so that area business leaders and your operations manager, so that you can also give them feedback and coach them and teach them. So I think that's the minimum a week that I do, 2 stores a week, and then make sure that one-on-ones, very important to always follow through, validate, because restaurant industry is about execution. You plan well, you execute even better.
Yeah, it's not just about having the plan, but following
execution talaga siya. Especially restaurants, very detailed. And one tip also is that every Friday you have to plan ahead for next week already. Then you have monthly, ang tawag namin diyan yung high impact priorities. So the high impact priorities you should plot already on your calendar, hindi na pwedeng galawin yun. No meetings, no other appointments should move that. So daily flight plan, weekly flight plan, monthly flight plan. When do you do the inventories? When do you have that discussion about the results? When do you cascade the targets for the next month? It should not be later than the 25th of each month. Para yung last 5 days, instead ng mindset nyo, nirarap up nyo pa lang yung current month. You're already
planning for the next.
To start strong for the next month. Kasi by, the last 5 days of the month, done deal na yung last month. Wala na yun. You should be planning ahead for that.
How do you stay productive given all of this? Like, do you have any productivity secrets or mga tips that you apply?
Well, yung flight plan is one of the oldest secret that we have here in these companies, that everyone has a flight plan. Where are you supposed to be? Diba, may saying kami dito, be where it matters, when it matters, focusing on what really matters. Okay, so, be where it matters, with who matters, sino kasama mo, where are you going, what are you going to do? Is it focusing on what really matters? Because for me, time, especially at this age, medyo may edad na rin ako. I'm 47 already. Time becomes more valuable as you age. So you have to allocate time. You cannot add on to time.
Yeah.
So you just have to allocate it. You don't manage time. You just have to allocate it based on the high impact priorities. And ask yourself, am I supposed to be the one doing this, or is there a better person to do
You
this
can
more
delegate it,
effectively?
yeah.
And then you realize there's value in empowerment and coaching and equipping people. That that naturally leads now to a succession planning in the organization.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
I've ever received? That's a tough question. Siguro I've learned, I cannot remember anymore who I received it from, but I think in the value of time and options. I think I learned it from just observing. I'm observing life in general. Like, I always say my repetitive words of wisdom, which a lot of people who work with me get fed up already. They always say that, you always repeat that, but it's true. There's no mystery in life. You want to know what happens in the future, just observe the older people. You want to know what happens to people who don't come to work on time? Observe somebody who doesn't come to work on time. You want to know what happens to people who don't plan their day? Observe somebody who doesn't plan their day. Ganun lang. There's no mystery in life. And on a more serious note, you want to know what happens to people who don't take care of their body, who abuse their body or whatever. No? You don't have to figure it out. You just have to find the right person and observe that person, and there you go. That is what is going to happen to you if you don't change things.
Nice. That's actually very simple. No? And sometimes the most simple advice are the best advice. Diba? It's just hard for people to take it parang too hard kasi parang feeling nila there's like a deeper secret out there.
Wala. It's as now I can say, as you get older, wisdom is actually just realizing the simplicity of things. For me, that's my personal take on it. The older I get, I realize how, simplicity is the best policy. Aside from honesty. so magalit yung teacher ko. No? So it's, it's really how to simplify things. And the more you complicate matters, the more time it will consume, the more effort it will consume. Ask yourself, are you working on the right problem or opportunity? Or are you wasting time doing something that is not really that important anyways? So that's I think the leadership calling for us now as, restaurant leaders is to focus on the pressing problems, the real problems of the industry. Sabi mo kanina, why am I not even bothered about sharing all of these things? Because it is not the problem. The problem is that if we don't work together, it will implode. So collaborate, cooperate, consolidate, all of these things that point to unifying, consolidating, working together as an industry is, you can count me in. But if there's an initiative that will foster divisiveness, count me out. I'm not for that. Because the industry needs to be saved.
Nice. Is there somebody in the industry, both local or like abroad, that you'd want to meet or parang like have a chat with?
Well, recently I had that great opportunity to meet with one of the family members of the Chick-fil-A family. Si Dan Cathy, actually, he had a picture with them. And of course, recently I had a picture with Sir Ato. I approached him and said, yes sir, here's my card. I used to be a service crew in Jollibee and, pwede po bang magpa-picture? I'm a fan of the industry. I'm a fan. That's why when I travel abroad, I always bring home insights. I put together decks of, insights that I share with people. I would like to meet siguro one of these days. I met him actually in the conference, yung Young Brand CEO. And that was an inspiring talk. The owner of Nando's, also one of the founders of Nando's, we got to meet in the conference. That's why I love going to the conferences, because you get to hear insights. And some of your insights get validated, you get additional insights. Overall, when you go home, you can again empower people and equip your team to tackle the challenges of the industry better.
Okay, so we're heading towards the latter part of the show now. There are 3 questions that I always like to ask. The first question is, okay, knowing everything that you know now, after all your experience in the food industry and running buffaloes, if you can go back in time to the day that you decided to start buffaloes, and you had, let's say, a minute lang, 60 seconds, to give advice to your younger self, what would you say?
I would say, focus more on Buffalo Swings and Things. Siguro I could have, my stuff to tell, because things happen for a purpose. I believe that. But, if I could have just focused more on Buffaloes earlier, maybe, not wait for until the 7th, 8th year before I came back. But, that's easy to say now.
Yeah, with hindsight.
But in hindsight, is always the best, but, it's hindsight. So, yun yung advice ko. That, I didn't realize what a gold mine we had in our hands back in 2009. 2009, it was just fun for us. It was just, putting together, being together every day, working together and having fun, and, at the same time, serving people with great wings. But, yung business aspect of it didn't sink in right away. So, I think that's it.
Okay. Second question. So, in the past 10 years, you guys have accomplished a lot, and over the past 2 years, you're really ramping up your expansion along with doing Resto Coach. What else are you looking to accomplish over the next 10 years?
Well, next 10 years, siguro, Buffalo Swings and Things will be stable enough to accommodate a sister brand. I think a new concept, going into a new business model that will not compete with Buffalo Swings and Things, because there's always that creative itch. Lalo kami, parang, what's the next Buffalo Swings and Things? I think it's doable. It's we have something working on right now as we speak. It's just narrowing it down to, from the 5 concepts that you're thinking of, narrowing it down to the best candidate. Because I always believe in just focusing on one brand that you have to grow and start. And all the learnings from Buffalo Swings and Things will be applied to that brand to make it even better than BWNT.
Nice. Okay, so before I ask my final question, where can people follow you online?
Well, personally, yung the best way to reach me is through the Resto Coach.
Okay.
Of course, we also have a brand page for Buffalo Swings and Things. I always I always monitor all the messages. Naka-notify pa rin ako dyan. So, and of course, I think that's it for now.
Okay,
and then
so
upcoming yung show that we're putting together with Chef Laudico.
All right.
The Resto Coach.
Coach. Okay, we'll link up all those pages on the show notes. So before I ask my final question again, I just wanted to acknowledge you, Rommel, for being a mentor to me in the short time that we've met. It's very inspiring to me to see not just your success, because I'm a fan of Buffaloes, but also having met you and seeing the kind of person you are and the kind of leader and entrepreneur that you are. It's very inspiring to me. So I just want to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you.
So my very, very final question is, how do you want to be remembered?
Well, people ask me, what is the purpose? Kasi I always give away yung template when talking about a more general topic of leadership. I always share the template. It's purpose, vision, strategy, plan, system, and then saka ka lang mag-action. So that's what I want to leave on a more technical, that template that I want to share with people. And given more opportunities to talk or to speak to groups, siguro that's one thing that I'd like to push. So to your question, the answer would be, I'd like to be remembered as somebody who did the work of the Lord through restaurants. Kasi not everyone can be a priest, not everyone can be a preacher, not everyone can be a pastor. But I just want to be remembered as the disciple of the Lord in the restaurant industry. Yun yung pangarap ko, that somebody will say finally na, he's not really doing it for his fulfillment or whatever, for self-centered purposes, but it's actually the work of the Lord. I sincerely believe that, the mission, the blessings are given because you have a mission. Hindi yan binigay just because you want to enjoy it. No, kasi parang pag ganon, that's a feeling of entitlement. And I've gone through periods in my life where I encountered self-challenges na, sometimes you get filled with ego, and you become arrogant, you become proud, you become self-centered. And that's what I'm trying to avoid by humbling myself every day and saying that all of these things that we're doing, the Resto Coach, Buffalo Wings and Things, it was given to us by the Lord. And I share with you a very intimate story that we have. Ed and I, when we sign up something, when we accomplish something, we always make it a habit to text each other. Praise the Lord. If you want to check the record of all the openings, the dates, you will see it in our Bible thread, the two of us sharing, bro, signed up this site. The response is, praise the Lord. And I will say, amen. Every store, that 31 store streak from 2017, all of the conversation, I'm getting goosebumps now because it is always reminding yourself. So I want to be remembered as somebody who did the work of the Lord through the restaurant industry.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much, Rommel. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you guys for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review the show on iTunes. It will help more people discover the show. You can also share a screen cap of the show on your social media accounts. Make sure to tag me and let me know which part of the episode you like or didn't like. All feedback is certainly welcome, so feel free to reach out to me on Instagram @KendrickCo to let me know what topics you'd like to be covered next and who you want to hear or learn from in future episodes. Until next time, do the work you want to see done, because life's too short to not be creating your life's work.